If you are a real estate agent and you want 2026 to be your best year yet, and not only your busiest year, but your best, your most intentional, your most profitable, this video is for you. End of year planning isn't optional. It's the separation point between agents who grow and really business owners who grow and agents who guess. Solo agent, team leader, it doesn't matter. I'm going to walk you through the exact 5-step planning system I use and teach that sets up a predictable, a scalable, and stress-free year. Here's how to set aside one intentional planning morning that will shape all 12 months of 2026. So create the right environment. Of course, book a spot at a restaurant or a coffee shop that isn't trying to flip tables every 30 minutes. This is a planning morning, not to be rushed. Bring your laptop, printed numbers from last year, and your team if you have one. Of course, if you have a team, hopefully they're bringing obviously like your P&L and your numbers, your sales price, all of those things for the previous year so that you have all your numbers in front of you. You think more clearly, of course, out of your normal environment. Your team engages more deeply. You break out of like a reactive, like daily mode. Like, I don't know about you, but if I'm sitting at my computer in my office, there is no way I'm going to truly lock out into one item because I'm just going to get distracted by phone calls. And so this is really a time to set aside, and it is the only thing you do in that moment. Let's actually dive into the process. So review your 2025 numbers or the year previous numbers. What you do next year is based entirely on what happened this year. Without reviewing your numbers, you're planning blind. So review your total sales volume, your average sales price, your total GCI, and of course, more importantly, what is your net? Like, what is your gross percentage like versus your net? What is the net percentage based on your GCI? That's really important. Is it where it should be? Referral versus new business. Profitability activities versus time wasters. Time spent in each area of your business, conversion rates, client experience feedback. I mean, this is where we as a team spend so much time because again, 100% referral based and client satisfaction and going deeper into those client like relationships is everything. So ask, like, what worked? What actually drained us this year that we don't want to do moving forward? Where did I earn the highest return with the least amount of stress? The past always leaves clues, so we really need to make sure that we're following those. Don't set goals emotionally. Set them based on what you're planning on doing the next year and what you've done the previous year. So of course, define that. What is your income goals? That's GCI, but that's also net. Like if our expenses are so high that our GCI is so far from our net, there's better ways to run a business. I just did a video on that as being more profitable. That's a really, really big deal. So make sure you watch that. But income goal, that is again, in my mind, that is like your net income. Units needed, your sales price. What's your average sales price? Do you need to raise that? Activities required, staffing or leverage adjustments. Like, are you needing to leverage some things in your business right now or in your personal life? And then of course, personal family time, goals, that all needs to be planned in our meetings so that we're looking at that. Not only do we want to grow our business, but hopefully we want to grow our health. We want to grow our hobbies. We want to grow our finances and build wealth along the way. And of course, our relationships in our life. If we don't plan for that, it just doesn't happen magically. Like we have to have a plan for everything in our life. So tie every goal to a number and a plan. Every goal needs a supporting behavior, or it's not really a goal. It's more of just like a wish. So something we love to do is a wheel of life check-in. So I do this with my team. If you're a solo agent, definitely do it. But it basically is, okay, a wheel of life is, and you can even Google it and it'll show you like what a wheel of life is. It's basically gauging like what is your life balance right now? And that is, of course, health, family, finances. It's your wealth, your business, your relationships, your personal growth, your fun, recreation. Hopefully you're having some, and your contribution, your spirituality, and rate each of those 1 to 10. What are the areas that are the most depleted? And what are 2 items you can do to actually get those numbers up in the next 12 months? We are not going to sustain if we are not somewhat balanced. And I get it. It's never going to be a perfect circle, but it should be somewhat round. It should look somewhat like a wheel versus like 8 and 1. We know we need to do some work for sure. So your business can't grow on a burned out foundation. If you've watched any of my businesses, you know I'm not chasing lead sources. I actually believe that's the number one reason why real estate agents fail. And the other reason why they're on a roller coaster ride is they're chasing all these cold lead sources. If you have lived in the same state for 5+ years, you should be killing it in real estate. And if you've lived there a lifetime, there's absolutely like 10 years plus, I'm sorry, but there's no reason you should be under 250K a year. And that's no lead sources. Build your 2026 marketing calendar. This is where agents make or break their year. Create a month-by-month plan, a day-by-day plan. That's going to include your client events, contacts. How often are you contacting your database? Depending on their top 10, top 25, top 50, top 100, based on how they're categorized. Lunch is coffee. How often are we going to lunch or coffee depending on how they're categorized? How often are we mailing to them? How often are we doing videos to them? How often are we sending, or who we're sending birthday cards or birthday gifts, or depending on how they're categorized. Basically, how are we getting deeper and deeper into these relationships? Because keeping in mind, every one person knows another 300 to 400 people. So even if they're not moving, someone they know is moving. I can't tell you how many times I talk to agents that have lived in the same state their entire life. And they're like, oh, Jess, yeah, I've tapped out my database. I'm like, oh, great. Like, what are you earning? Oh, 100 to 150 with their database. I'm like, you guys, I am not special. The last 10 years ago, been in the real estate industry for 20 years, but 10 years ago, I got really, really serious about creating a plan for my database. And that's anyone that would recognize you at the grocery store, basically. It's not just a past client. And got really, really heavy on everything I do with my business revolves around my database. And my average income for the last decade, year after year after year, this is not a big buyer agent sales team, is just under 600K with a high of over 840K for the year. When someone tells me that they've tapped out their database, I'm here to tell you you haven't. Unless you're earning that, then maybe you are. So nothing should be random. We want predictability. We want repeatability. We want scalability. So also something we love to do is to run a SWOT review, which really is looking at, okay, like what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our opportunities? What are our threats right now? Yes, there's some external threats. Like let's look at, okay, maybe the market wasn't what it was 3 years ago. Maybe interest rates aren't where they're at. Oh, my market, nothing's selling. I was talking to another agent actually just this last week, and she's like, nothing's selling in my market. And I said, gosh, will you pull up your MLS? Can you look up your state or the areas you service in the last 90 days? How many homes have sold? There was a lot of homes that have sold. How many homes were listed? How many homes went under contract? Homes are selling. Properties are moving. Regardless of the threats that are external, that does not mean you cannot run a very profitable, scalable business if you get really, really intentional and focus on what you can control. Look at the strengths, look at the weaknesses, look at the opportunities. If I write a list of opportunities in the real estate sales industry, it's almost overwhelming how many areas we can go deep in. This helps you identify where to double down and where to pivot. The market is changing constantly. We need to focus on what we can control and our systems in order to grow the relationships we have. Of course, looking at our strengths is our referral base. Are we good at what we do in terms of marketing very heavily? And that's not just sending a quarterly newsletter. That is not a blueprint for your database, or calling them, scrolling through your phone and calling them on occasion. That is also not a blueprint for building referrals. So it needs to be really, really specific. So is that something that is a weakness? Is that a strength of yours? There's so many different things like opportunities. Are you going after the estate attorneys or the HR departments? Those are opportunities. They're the builders? Really just looking at that and seeing, where do we need to change? What did we do well last year? What do we need to do better this year? This step creates clarity and direction for the next steps moving forward. Also, at the end of that meeting, I always have a next steps to implement. So what are we going to implement in the next 30 years? Not 30 years, 30 days. What are we going to implement in the next 60 days? And what are we going to implement in the next 90 days? And who is in charge of that item? And that is basically a team meeting with me. Every single week we review. Are we actually implementing? Of course, we complete our marketing calendar so we know exactly what that looks like moving forward for the next 12 months. Most agents drift into the new year. Top agents actually design the next 12 months. This system, review your numbers, set goals, do the wheel of life. Dial in your marketing calendar and 100% follow it. And then review your SWOT. Create a business you can predict, one that you can scale, and most importantly, one that you can actually enjoy. So if you could take 2 seconds out of your day, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, let me know. Put in the comment, like, what are you doing well right now? If you are an agent, your business is inconsistent, book a call with me today if you're serious about really getting to that next level. Here's the next video.